This video is sponsored by NordVPN, absolute legends. In an era of increasing government interference in our browsing habits, with websites becoming blocked, inaccessible, or just very inconvenient due to heavy-handed legislation, there's never been a better time to invest in a VPN. Like Imgur doesn't work in the UK anymore, which has indirectly ruined a bunch of other websites. So let's say I'm on the Steam Workshop browsing mods. If they have images embedded via Imgur, I can't see them. I have to use NordVPN to connect to another country like America in order to see them? It's such nonsense. Oi mate, you got a license for that JPEG? But yes, NordVPN allows you to change your digital location in order to circumvent stuff like this, allow you to access other types of region-locked content, and take advantage of things like regional pricing differences. It also blocks malware and ads and protects you from malicious sites, downloads, and trackers, helping you stay safer, more secure, and anonymous, which I consider to qualify as an absolute win. And then there's also all this stuff too. So to get the best deal on a license for more internet, take yourself over to nordvpn.com/cynicalreviews or click the link in the description or pinned comment below to get a huge discount on a 2-year plan, plus 4 additional bonus months, and with a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/cynicalreviews. Oh yeah. Who doesn't love a bit of romance? Well, aromantic people, I guess. And a lot of boomer dads. And people in prison. Love is one of the most universal human experiences, so it makes sense that it's one of the most commonly portrayed themes in art, literature, and media, even when that love takes a rather unusual form. And while many of these depictions are fine or forgettable, some of them are, as you might say, no bueno.
Daddy, you spanked Mama.
You're darn tootin' I did.
That means you love her.
That's what I've been trying to tell her.
These examples portray romance and relationships in such a way that if you took them too seriously or took them in isolation, you could end up on multiple registers, because they have some very questionable ideas about what's acceptable when it comes to romance. And of course, love is complicated and relationships are messy. Things don't always proceed nicely or according to conventions. But then there's times when you look at the situation you're being presented and you kinda have to go, The key factor here is that the, for lack of a better word, creepy elements of the romance are either not portrayed as such, or are called out as being weird or inappropriate, but are then validated by the characters getting together in the end despite them. Even just focusing purely on movies, there are so many examples of films that depict these messed up ideas about romance that if I were to go over all of them in a video, I would surely get a Guinness World Record for the amount of simultaneous cancer diagnoses. Some of these I've covered on my channel before. Other honourable mentions include stuff like The Notebook, in which the guy threatens to off himself if the girl doesn't go out with him, and then she cheats on her partner with him. Charming. Or Love Actually, which despite being one of the most popular movies every Christmas, is absolutely rammed full of this stuff. Or Manhattan, in which Woody Allen's character dates a 17-year-old when he is 42. This is a reference to the fact that Woody Allen is somewhat of an odd individual. Or Blank Check, in which a fully grown FBI agent kisses a young boy on the mouth. This was a Disney movie. But I thought that it might be fun to go through some of the more interesting or messed up films that I found during my research, have a good laugh, and see if we can learn something. And if you know of any other good ones, let me know down in the comments, for I have long since given up trying to retain my sanity. The one with the guy in a coma. Let's start this off with arguably the most inoffensive movie on this list. It's all downhill from here. 1995's While You Were Sleeping, directed by John Turteltaub, who has an interesting filmography, let's just say, and starring a young Sandra Bullock as a woman who pretends to be the fiancé of a man in a coma.
You what?
And yes, this is the least questionable storyline in what follows, trust me. This is one of those movies that would definitely be seen as disturbing if the roles were reversed, and that's the only reason it was given a pass. Don't take my word for it. The original screenplay was entitled Coma Guy, which is surprisingly less creepy than what we ended up with. And as the title implies, it featured a woman in a coma with the man being the weirdo.
Right!
But even in an industry famous for being Harvey Weinstein's personal playground, this was considered too off-putting by studio executives until the genders were switched. And thus we have Lucy, a ticket booth operator for the Chicago Metro. She's a one-woman loneliness epidemic, and in her loneliness she becomes weirdly infatuated with this guy who comes through her station every day, thinking he's her perfect Prince Charming despite having never spoken to him. To each their own, right? But I find those eyebrows incredibly distracting. But you know what they say about guys with big eyebrows? Big cop. Lucy reluctantly works on Christmas Day because she has nothing better going on. And she fumbles again.
Nice coat. Merry Christmas to you too. You're beautiful. Will you marry me? I love you.
Mr. Eyebrows gets harassed by some guys and falls on the tracks.
You're breathing. Oh God, you smell good.
Why don't you sniff his crotch next while you're at it? She rolls them out of the way, saving his life, and he falls into a coma. She follows him to the hospital, though she's not allowed to see him because she doesn't even know his name. But a nurse overhears her saying, "I was going to marry him," assumes she's his fiancée, and leads her right to his bedside. Could have done with a couple of follow-up questions there. While she starts talking to Eyebrows in a coma, the nurse tells the cop, the doctor, and the guy's whole family that Lucy is his fiancée, which is not her fucking place to do. And before she can correct them, they're so enthused about her saving his life and about meeting this mysterious fiancé they knew nothing about, that they talk over her and the whole situation gets out of hand. Lucy confronts the nurse, who deflects the blame back on her. Look, all I'm saying is that if babies start mysteriously dying in this hospital, you'd know who to blame. Lucy wants to tell the truth, but it turns out that the guy's grandmother has heart problems, and she doesn't want a dead octogenarian on her conscience. So she goes along with it. Look, this woman doesn't know what day it is. At this point, you'd probably be doing her a favour. And thus do the wacky hijinks ensue. It's not the most convoluted setup for a romance story I've ever seen, but it's certainly up there. When asked how they met, it's easy for her to make up a bullshit story because she's been fantasizing about him so often.
Have you ever fallen in love with somebody you haven't even talked to?
No, because that's not love. That is being slightly unhinged. Conflicted about the situation, she talks to her boss, who tells her to go along with the whole charade.
Okay, what if he doesn't come out of his coma?
Well, then who's to know? When my mother found out I was getting married to my wife, her intestines exploded. Now you tell them now, you might as well shoot Grandma.
Her boss gives the worst advice.
Lucy, you're born into a family. You do not join them like you do the Marines.
You have to tell me what to do.
Pull the plug.
You're sick.
He's like the opposite of a magical character. Whenever he shows up, he makes things worse. She goes to the family's house for Christmas, and they have a great time, with her enjoying being part of a family. By the way, this movie wasn't supposed to be set at Christmas, the studio just wanted it to be more marketable. So there's that. Eyebrows' brother Jack turns up at the house, and spoilers, this is the guy she's eventually gonna get it on with. But for now, he's suspicious of Lucy. So he goes to her apartment complex, only to be met by her neighbor Joe Jr., who, even though they're not in New York, is the most stereotypical New Yorker I think I've ever seen.
Ta-da! I told them to give me the same ones they use in the winner's circle in Arlington.
He's here for comic relief, and he's obsessed with Lucy, although at least it's not in a true crime way. Joe Jr. tells Jack that he is in fact dating Lucy, so he confronts her in the hospital in front of the whole family. To prove they're dating, she makes up a story about Eyebrows losing a testicle in an accident, which his friend alluded to earlier. So his mother fucking checks while the whole family is still in the room? I'm starting to think there might be some deeper issues at work here. Turns out, by some coincidence, she was right about Eyebrows adopting the Lance Armstrong lifestyle, so she's off the hook. But after Joe Jr. comes to her apartment to complain that she didn't go on a date with him, when she never said that she would do that, the Godfather reveals that he knows the truth, but that the family is better off with her in their lives, so they should keep the illusion going.
What?
Is he not concerned at all that the guy might wake up and have some serious fucking questions? She talks to Jack, who escorts her home. There's this sequence that goes on for several minutes where they kept slipping over the ice because they didn't just walk along the already cleared paths, which is just an excuse for some, quote, romantic chemistry. Falling is a recurring motif in this movie, because falling in love, get it? But they use it to the extent of showing some random paperboy tasting pavement as a transition scene? It really does come out of nowhere. Yes, child, suffer. Suffer for the plot. But it works because Lucy and Jack spend more time together and catch the feels. A surprise to absolutely no one who saw the movie's poster.
All right, Lucy, it's either me or him.
Him?
That was amazing. As much as I shit on it, this movie does have its funny moments. But then it slips back to being fucking weird again, as Eyebrow's family pressure Lucy and Jack to kiss under the mistletoe. Remember, they still think she's their son's fiancé, and this is his brother? What the fuck kind of family is this?
Degenerates like you belong on a cross.
But now there's the further problem that she doesn't want to tell Jack the truth because she's afraid he'll hate her for it. Another series of misunderstandings leads to the family thinking that she's pregnant as Eyebrow's little sister overhears her sarcastically joking about it and announces it to the entire family. I swear, no one here has any filters or boundaries. This leads to Jack following Lucy to her friend's New Year's party, which leads to more misunderstandings and drama. This film is a great example of a story that could be over in a heartbeat if the characters actually fucking talk to each other honestly. Eyebrows wakes up from his coma on New Year's Eve, but because he doesn't recognise Lucy, his family assumes that he has amnesia, and then gaslights him into believing that he has amnesia and that Lucy is his fiancée. She tries to tell the truth, but they assume that she means that she was never pregnant, which they already know by this point. The Godfather says that he will explain the truth to them, but then pussies out and pretty much manipulates Eyebrows into giving her a chance. This is more of a comedy of errors than the average Bethesda game launch. Pulling that plug might not have been such bad advice after all. He does seem to have some degree of amnesia though, since he's forgotten about his existing girlfriend to whom he'd already proposed and who has been leaving messages on his home phone. She eventually shows up, and wouldn't you know it, because this is a romantic comedy, she's a total bitch. Apparently they did break up beforehand, so he dumps her again. Peter, that's his name by the way, proposes to Lucy even though he doesn't remember her and barely even knows her. So again, she doesn't get the chance to explain herself. She decides to go ahead with marrying him even though she's now in love with Jack. She tells her boss that it's because she's lonely and a rich and handsome man proposed to her. The boss is not thrilled and for the first time actually gives good advice. And talk about a special day, Jesus. He's still got his IV drip in for fuck's sake. But Lucy just can't do it anymore, so she finally tells the truth, confesses her love for Jack and apologises. When the jilted girlfriend shows up with her husband, more chaos ensues, which gives Lucy her out. Joe Jr. tries to catch her on the rebound, but she ain't giving out any sloppy seconds. She quits her job, but on her last day, Jack shows up with the family and proposes. So they get married and ride away on the subway. Unlike most films on our list, While You Were Sleeping was a hit, both critically and commercially. God only knows why. Although, having said that, it is the clear best out of the rest of the movies we'll be covering. The idea that the effects of extreme loneliness could cause someone to become infatuated with someone they don't even know, and then to go along with an elaborate facade due to a series of ridiculous circumstances, is something that I think could have been dealt with better in a non-romantic movie. And I was pretty relieved that she didn't actually end up with Coma Guy in the end. I would definitely have a lot more negative things to say if that were the case. But on the other hand, none of this would have happened if she hadn't been creepily obsessed with Mr. Eyebrows and without massive amounts of deceit, manipulation, and gaslighting. And again, imagine if the roles were reversed. Hence why I think it deserves a spot in this video. I hope Donkey's got the most out of their product placement at least. The one with the girl who can't remember shit. Adam Sandler is capable of making great movies every so often, but usually chooses not to. So when you're picking one of his movies to watch, you might as well be playing Russian roulette with 5 bullets. And 50 First Dates will make you wish you were playing with 6. This is another one which has issues related to memory and agency which make its romantic plotline unavoidably creepy, and which seems to think that persistence and love are enough to overcome an impossible barrier to romance regardless of the messed up implications of the resulting relationship. It's your typical Adam Sandler affair, although even by the standards of his comedies, I'd say this one ranks pretty low. Like, you'd have to try pretty hard to laugh. Let's just say, it's an acquired taste. He plays Henry, a womanizer living in Oahu, Hawaii. There's no particular reason this film needed to be set in Hawaii, and it's almost certainly a tax-deductible holiday for him and his mates, like most of his movies from the past couple of decades. I can't say I blame him, to be honest, that does sound like a pretty sweet deal. Anyhow, he loves women and is very good at sealing the deal, but only dates tourists so he doesn't have to commit to anything serious. Making up bullshit stories to get the infatuated women off his back, when in reality he's a marine veterinarian at a sea life park. He has a pet penguin called Willy and looks after a walrus called Jocko. They're the most entertaining part of this movie. They really needed more to do. Rob Schneider, nowadays most famous for being a divorced nutjob, plays his friend, a native Hawaiian, which is a little odd, to put it mildly. As with everything else he's in, it would definitely be improved with his absence. While Henry is out sailing, the mast of his boat snaps, so while he waits for the Coast Guard in a cafe, he meets Drew Barrymore's character and our love interest, Lucy. Now ain't that a fucking coinkydink? He doesn't approach her because he assumes that she's a local, but he goes back the next day and helps her build a Waffle House, which gets him in there. This impromptu date goes pretty well as they bond over their love of sea life and she wants to see him again the next day. But come the next day, she has no recollection of meeting him, which leads to a very awkward moment where she thinks he's a pervert. The cafe owner Sue explains that Lucy was in a terrible car accident the year before, and as a result of a head injury she lost her short-term memory and can't form new memories since the crash. So essentially, she forgets every day after it happens and she wakes up every day thinking it's Sunday the 13th of October. Her father and the people around her help keep up the illusion in order to spare her from the inevitable trauma, and she doesn't even know that she's been injured. Every day, her dad and brother pretend that it's her dad's birthday, opening her present, The Sixth Sense, and then watching it. If I had to watch that film every day for the rest of my life, I'd be begging for legal euthanasia. Oh, and the brother is Sean Astin, which made me do a double take. Like, what is Samwise Gamgee doing in this bullshit? He's a bodybuilder on steroids. By which I mean, he's actually on steroids. And every day they put their house back to the way it was to stop her brain from having a catastrophic meltdown. Sue warns Henry to stay away from her so she doesn't get hurt. But of course he doesn't, because otherwise there'd be no movie. Rob Schneider tells Henry that Lucy is basically the perfect girl for him because she always forgets meeting him, so there'll never be any attachment. And even though Henry calls him a psycho for suggesting it, he goes for it anyway. So he tries the same move on her again, but it doesn't work. He keeps trying various different ways to introduce himself, like fake crying and pretending that he can't read, which, shockingly, actually works.
Pancakes.
I'm so stupid.
Don't cry.
Until he blows it.
All that flirting and phony I can't read stuff, and then you're not even gonna ask me out or for my phone number?
I can't read.
Oh, shut up.
Henry goes to her house to apologise, only to be confronted by the dad and brother, who tell him to stay the fuck away from her.
If you know her condition, then you know she can't have a normal relationship with a man because the next morning she won't know who he is. And any guy who's okay with that ain't okay with me.
I'm not looking for a one-night stand.
Anything with Lucy is a one-night stand, numbnuts.
Give us a break. Just stay away from the Hooky Loud Cafe. My daughter's been through enough.
Which he probably should do, let's be real. But he refuses to do that, instead attempting to intercept her on the road.
He asked me not to go to the Hooky Loud. I'm not going to the Hooky Loud. Not doing anything wrong.
He has to keep concocting ways to meet her on the way to the cafe, like pretending his car is broken down, creating a roadblock, leaving his pet penguin to be almost run over, or having Rob Schneider beat him up so Lucy starts attacking him with a baseball bat, which is somewhat understandable. But eventually her dad and brother figure out what he's doing. I don't get what his end goal is here. He says he doesn't want a one-night stand with her, but as Samwise points out, she'll never remember anything, so it's always going to be a one-night stand. There's no chance for any lasting relationship with her, and there's still an endless supply of tourists he can bang, so why is he even bothering? But when a cop gives her a ticket for expired car tags, she realises that it's not October, and when her dad tells her the truth, it's traumatic for her. Apparently, she's learned the truth many times before, but forgotten it every time. Which is, honestly, fucking mortifying. They drive to a specialist clinic to talk to brain expert Dan Aykroyd, who tells her again that her condition is permanent and probably won't ever change. But hey, at least she's not this guy who loses his memory every 10 seconds, so she shouldn't feel so bad, right? But Henry's still down bad and wants to find a different way to deal with her condition. So he makes a tape for her to watch, explaining who she is, the accident, and her condition.
Okay, she cried for about an hour. That's not too bad. I bet in another hour she'll be ready to see her friends, have some lunch, get her life back. We could do this every day.
But do you really want her to have to watch this and go through this every single day? It's never going to get any easier for her, so this is just cruel.
So every day you help her to realize what happened and you wait patiently for her to be okay with it?
Then you get her to fall in love with you again?
Yes, ma'am.
You asshole. You don't even open the frickin' car door for me anymore.
So he wants to convince her to fall in love with him again each and every day? This is held up as super romantic, but I don't know, there's something deeply disturbing about this. Because you have to consciously put her through that trauma and take away a lot of her own agency in order for this to happen. And before you say, well, he's in love with her, he started doing all this before he was in love with her, so no, it doesn't count. He really could have just found someone else to date. It's not like he has a problem finding potential partners. The issue is that he was mortally afraid of commitment, but we've not been given sufficient justification for him changing that stance. What, they both like fish and waffles and that's supposed to be enough? In order for this to work, she'll have to build up all these romantic and sexual feelings for him to the point where she's ready to have sex with him, from not knowing him at all, every day. It reminds me of the Black Mirror episode where the woman has her mind wiped and is put through a torturous scenario every day, only to have her mind wiped again so she completely forgets it the next day. Now, this isn't as bad as that, but there's an undeniably dubious element to all this. Eventually, they do have sex, and when she wakes up in bed with him the next morning, she freaks out and knocks him out with a lacrosse stick. See, this is what's going to happen every morning, because it's an understandably scary thing to wake up to, and not just because it's Adam Sandler. Knowing that this can never work out, she wants to break up with him and destroy her journal in which she has written about him so that she forgets about him completely. She doesn't want him to give up his dreams for her, and a future with marriage and children can't possibly work. He reluctantly agrees and helps her destroy her journal after they go through it together. This is the most sensible thing either of them has done. And although it is kinda sad, the movie tries to convince us that this is not something they should be doing after all. As Henry is getting ready to set sail on the research study he's been planning for years, Lucy's dad explains that she went to live at the institute because she didn't want to be a burden on her family anymore. He gives Henry a CD with the song Wouldn't It Be Nice, which Lucy would sing only on days that they met, which gives Henry the idea that she does somewhat remember him. So he rushes to the institute, and she doesn't remember him. But she does dream about him every night and has made numerous paintings and sculptures of him. So they get back together. From a medical standpoint, there's no way this is healthy. We cut to her waking up sometime later on a boat, and the tape she watches now includes footage of their wedding. She goes up on deck to meet him and is also met by their young daughter, and they live happily ever after, sailing the world. Oh, and her dad's on the boat too, just vibing. Look, the movie is trying to be charming and romantic and end on a high note, but there's just something indescribably horrifying about this scenario. There's so many fucked up power dynamics going on here. Like, he could lie to her, abuse her, do all kinds of messed up stuff, and she wouldn't remember any of it. Neither of them can have a developing relationship with each other because she forgets who he is every day. It also means he was somehow able to convince her to go through with a wedding and get married to him on what is for her the first day that she met him. Which is utterly insane, especially when you factor in that he has to get her to that emotional threshold over and over again every 24 hours. She'll always wake up in an unfamiliar place and she can't exactly leave, so she's forced to stick around in this arrangement even when she's not okay with it. And there was obviously a decent chunk of time where she had to wake up every day and find out that she was pregnant, not by her own choosing, and unable to do anything about it. And everyone was just okay with this? And now she forgets that she has a kid every day, so that must come as quite a shock. And the kid! Imagine being that poor kid and having your mum forget who you are every morning? This is supposed to be romantic? Jesus fucking Christ! Well, it looks like many people disagree with me, because it wasn't critically panned, did really well financially, and has inspired a bunch of remakes in other languages and even a stage musical. So what the fuck do I know? The one with multiple felonies. Our next film takes the phrase "stole my heart" a bit too literally. So much so that they even used it in the trailer.
She's holding him hostage, but he's stealing her heart.
It's not a Hallmark movie, but you could have fooled me. Holiday in Handcuffs is basically what it sounds like. A crazy woman kidnaps a random guy and forces him to pretend to be her boyfriend at her family's Christmas get-together. Oh, what, that doesn't sound like a compelling romance story to you? That doesn't get you going?
I just want to know how Trudy hooked up with Nick. Oh, I just gave him no choice but to love me.
Personally, I like to be at least taken to dinner before the handcuffs come out. Melissa Joan Hart, most famous for her days as Sabrina the Teenage Witch, a show I'm still nostalgic for because Salem the Cat was fucking awesome, plays Trudy, who is not a character, she's a caricature. She's so over the top even by the standards of eccentric romance protagonists. And she is a complete mess. Her stove doesn't light, so she reheats last night's Chinese food with a hairdryer. That, my friends, is how you die of food poisoning. Watching her puke her guts out and choke on her own stupidity would debatably make for a better movie, at least. Despite being a fuck-up, she lives in an apartment that's way bigger than she could afford based on her job as a waitress at an Indian restaurant. Look, no one said these movies had to be in any way realistic, did they? In an attempt to show what a bumbling idiot she is, they have her cause a car crash. Even though it's clearly not her fault, the driver immediately blames her. This makes her late for a job interview her dad set up, which naturally she fails, despite her desperate attempt to manifest success.
Come on, you know I can sell. I made more money than any of those other girls on the street.
Wait a minute.
Oh, diddums, life is just not going her way, is it? She's desperate to impress her parents when she goes home for Christmas, but is already failing badly. Her boyfriend Nick comes into her restaurant and says that he's not going with her to see her parents. He only said that he would do that in the hopes that she would have sex with him. He then breaks up with her, causing her to have a nervous breakdown in the middle of the restaurant. Her mum berates her for not having left yet.
Are you trying to ruin Christmas?
With one exception, this is a movie in which literally every single person in it sucks. She can't bear for her parents to know that she got dumped, so on the spur of the moment, she kidnaps this other random guy who came into the restaurant. At gunpoint, using an old gun that had been pointed out a few moments before. A literal Chekhov's gun. After she leads him out the back and somehow no one sees this, the guy's girlfriend that he was just about to propose to shows up. And of course he's not there. And it turns out, to probably absolutely no one's surprise, the girlfriend is a cunt.
Ah, you. Blitzen. Excuse you? Mm-hmm.
This gives us a reason for him to dump her and get with Blondie in the end, justifying everything that happens in the movie. Out back, he spins around to hit her, slips on the ice, and lands hard on his back, knocking himself out. It's such a funny shot. That looks like that would have done some real damage though. Should take him to a hospital, really. Oh, but that would make her a sympathetic protagonist. His name's David, by the way, not that it really matters. When they stop at a gas station, the cashier gets suspicious of him being handcuffed to the car. But she says it's kinky roleplay, so he gives her some free fluffy handcuffs? What the fuck? He is way too happy about this.
Lucky little bastard.
After almost shooting his dick off along the way, they arrive at her parents' log cabin in the arse end of nowhere. Trudy lies to her family and says that when Nick is in awkward situations, he does a whole act of not wanting to be there and pretending to be kidnapped. So when he tries to explain the situation to them, her idiot parents dismiss it and the rest of her family goes along with it. This is the kind of ridiculousness you could only get away with in a movie devoid of all standards, like this one. And this entire family absolutely sucks. Except the grandma, she's a mood.
Isn't it a little early? Early for who, Sugar Britches? I have to spend another entire day trapped with you yahoos. Mama's gonna need a little help.
There's no phones in the house, and all their cell phones and car keys are locked away so as not to spoil family time at their, quote, perfect Christmas. And Trudy is the keymaster. So David can't call for help, and when he tries to run away, he can't get into any of the cars, and there's no houses anywhere nearby. After desperately searching the house at night for any keys or phones, he takes off walking down the road. But again, he's in the middle of nowhere, and it's cold as fuck. So Trudy drives him back to the house, which is how the movie starts.
You are the devil.
Forcing him to sleep in the same room as her in a kid's bunk bed is just the icing on this humiliation cake. Not being funny, I feel like this guy would be justified in committing multiple homicide to get out of this situation. Like, what jury would seriously convict this guy for doing that? He tries to get her phone to call for help, chasing her around the kitchen, but because she's nuttier than a squirrel turd, she smashes her phone with a meat tenderizer. Her mum didn't bring the right olive oil, and she's obsessed with everything being perfect, so this actually matters. So David offers to get her some. The dad drives him to the gas station from before, but when he tries to tell the cashier what's happening, the old perv just makes a joke out of it, and pulls a shotgun on him when he tries insisting on using the station's phone.
And don't you mouth off to me or I'm gonna slap you right in your penis.
On the way back, he tries to swerve the dad's car to escape, but the dad just puts him in a headlock and tells him to stop horsing around. David discovers that Trudy's brother still has his cell phone, so he tries to call his girlfriend. When he can't get through, he calls her mother, but that goes wrong because it's Rich Peopleville. He eventually gets through to his girlfriend, but she goes off on him for leaving her at the restaurant. He tells her he's been kidnapped, but she doesn't believe him, until he says he was going to propose, then suddenly she gives a shit. Trudy then flushes the brother's phone down the toilet. David swears that until he's rescued, he's going to be the best boyfriend ever, so that her parents will fall in love with him, which will make it all the more satisfying for him when the truth comes out and it all comes crashing down around her. After they tell him all the embarrassing secrets from her childhood, they bond over some stupid bullshit, because of course they do. David checks out Trudy's sister, which makes her jealous. Not that she has any right to complain, seeing as how she abducted him. Nor does she ever express any concern whatsoever about his girlfriend or his family, or anyone else who might be missing him at Christmas. But hey, if she's wacky, what are you gonna do? They continue to bond over art and shit, and she learns about how he grew up as a struggling orphan, because of course he did. Her parents tell her that she needs to get a real job, but the thing that she's really good at is painting. Although that phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. David sticks up for her, having found her old art book. He then fake proposes to her with the ring he was going to give to his real girlfriend. Trudy's brother comes out as gay to her, and she says she's always known and understands. Aside from his later announcement at dinner, this doesn't really affect anything else, and feels like an obvious attempt to make her more likeable. When the grandma tries to drive back to the city to get a good steak and cognac, David tries to help her, but she crashes into a tree. Meanwhile, David's actual girlfriend has convinced the police to take this super seriously. Cut to them interrupting Trudy's friend having a very Merry Christmas. Trudy sees David bare-chested in the bathroom and is like, "Oh my god, he's actually kinda hot, oh, my vagina." And he watches her figure skate and is like, "Oh my god, she's actually kinda hot, oh, my penis." At their Christmas dinner, the sister reveals that she spent her law school tuition money on a Pilates studio, which upsets the dad. The brother comes out as gay, which apparently the mum already knew. The mum, who is absolutely sloshed, gets into an argument with the dad, saying she has to picture Clint Eastwood while having their once-a-year birthday sex, forever shattering the image of a perfect family Christmas they've been obsessing over. Then the cops burst in because Trudy's friend spilled the beans, and the jig is up. But they show remarkable restraint when the grandma starts threatening them with an ancient lead sender. This is because they don't work for ICE. The whole family ends up in jail. David doesn't press charges because romantic comedy, so they get let go. Except the grandma, because she did in fact threaten law enforcement officers with a gun. Or maybe it's because this cop likes a woman who can take her teeth out. Skipping forward to Valentine's Day, her job search is not going well and her family isn't speaking to her. Just to rub it in, she sees in the paper that David and girlfriend are getting married.
I can't believe I actually thought I had feelings for some guy I kidnapped. I mean, what did I think was gonna happen?
Careful there, you don't want to over-exercise those brain cells. But he's having second thoughts because the fiancé is still being a bitch. When he asks her why she wants to marry him, she gives a superficial answer that makes him realise that she doesn't actually like him. So he nopes out of there. Oh, who could have seen that one coming? Not me. Trudy's art gets accepted for an exhibition and she reconciles with her family, although she makes it clear that she doesn't want to live up to their expectations anymore. This whole conversation ignores the fact that she kidnapped an innocent bystander at gunpoint, lied to all of them about it, and put them all at risk of prosecution and serious prison time. Which is probably why they still encourage her to go after David.
Stupid is what it is.
It's not stupid.
Yeah, it is. In a turns of the table, David kidnaps her and takes her to a romantic spot, which is a new art and architecture studio he's opening up, the first piece of which is one of her paintings. Through his harrowing experience, he's realised he didn't actually want the things that he was going after, so now he's going after what he really wants. Which, of course, now includes her.
Thought I had something to prove. But I don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore.
You don't?
Maybe one more thing.
My brother, she kidnapped you and almost shot your dick off? Do I even need to say any more about this? The one where children see boobs. If you thought things were weird before, this is where they start to get really fucking weird. For now we come to 1994's Milk Money, which sounds like the name of a 70s porn movie, but the truth is far more harsh and disturbing. Wikipedia describes this as being about 3 suburban 11-year-old boys who find themselves behind in the battle of the sexes, believing they would regain the upper hand if they could just see a real live naked lady.
It's a battle of the sexes. And believe me, we are way behind.
So we're set up to have a jolly cracking time. Yes, Milk Money presents us with 3 11-year-old boys who are obsessed with girls and sex. I feel like that's a bit young for that. Usually at that age, boys think girls have cooties. While they chat in a treehouse, they put some stuff in a shoebox, and one boy puts a picture of his dead mother in there with his friend's mum's diaphragm, which the friend stole from his mum. I told you this one was weird, my dudes. Our main boy, Frank, really reminds me of that Yuon Kazoo kid. He asks his dad, played by Ed Harris, who deserves so much better than this garbage, really personal questions like, was Mum a virgin when you married her? Dad's like, the fuck? The next day, they talk to some girls outside their school. The dark-haired girl likes Frank, but he likes the blonde girl. But she likes his friend, who whispers in her ear some unspeakably dirty shit.
I don't think she's that kind of girl.
She's a girl, Frank. All girls are that kind of girl.
These boys are fixated to a rather unhealthy degree. For example, Frank's friend says that he saw his sister naked in the shower because he was hiding in the laundry basket, and he's proud of that?
You saw your sister naked in the shower?
Sorta. I was hiding in the laundry basket.
Are we just gonna move on and pretend that that didn't happen? They blatantly stare at girls' boobs as they walk by, and then it cuts to them watching hardcore porn while having milk and cookies? Now, I doubt the kid actors were actually watching anything bad, but still. They're so desensitized to gooning that this no longer does anything for them. They feel they need to take their virginity quest to the next level. So they decide to scrounge up $100 and travel to the city of Pittsburgh in order to pay a prostitute to show them her naked body. Hence the title Milk Money, I guess.
That sure is a lot of milk money.
Kevin, some things are more important than milk, alright?
It's like a really fucked up version of Stand By Me. And that was about a bunch of kids trying to see a dead body. And this is more fucked up than that. They literally start selling porn at their school to raise money for this adventure, and no parents or teachers find out about this, and there are no consequences for it. Having got the money, they travel to the city, but they don't know how to tell the prostitutes apart. So what do? They go around asking random women on the street if they're prostitutes, waving the cash in their faces, with predictable results. I could see this being the plot of a South Park episode, actually. This is something I could imagine those characters doing. And that might have been funny because of how over the top it could be, but this is just weird. And this is a romantic comedy. We haven't even got to that yet. A shady guy offers to help them see a naked lady. He leads them into an underground parking lot and holds them up at gunpoint. This is why they have stranger danger PSAs in school, kids. A prostitute in the car next to them knocks the guy out, so her geriatric client drives off without paying her. The sex worker, named V, is played by Melanie Griffith, who we last saw on this channel almost getting her scalp torn off during the movie Raw. Oh yeah, that movie was a whole thing. You should check it out. V needs $100 or her pimp will get physical. The kids offer her the money if they can see her naked. Win-win, right? So she takes them to her apartment where they ask her a lot of awkward questions before she shows them her honking mammaries.
Ata! Ata!
Isn't this a crime? I'm pretty sure this is a crime. I mean, yeah, I know that prostitution is itself a crime in a lot of places, but there's crime, and then there's crime, you know? Frank, however, is a gentleman who covers his eyes and eats his crisps like an absolute chad. I was expecting this questline to take up most of the movie and not just the first act, and the fact that they've succeeded in their mission doesn't really come up again. It doesn't seem to have made a difference to the boys and only comes up in conversation in the context of them getting in trouble for it, which they never do. But not her getting in trouble, that's never discussed. So really, this part of the storyline didn't need to happen at all, except that this is all part of the really convoluted setup for the actual romantic storyline. You see, V decides that she's had enough of her pimp and decides to steal his car. The boys have their bike stolen, so V gives them a ride home. The car breaks down in front of Frank's house, so he invites her in, where she meets his dad, Tom. And this, finally, is the romance of this romantic comedy. This is certainly an interesting way of bringing two love interests together. Imagine the conversations. Oh, hey, how'd you guys meet? Well, his son paid me $100 to see my tits. Ha 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 ha, the adorable little scamp. Frank says that she's a maths tutor. So while the dad tries to fix the car, a misunderstanding leads to her thinking that he wants her to teach Frank about sex. She'd rather do stuff with Dad, but he doesn't get the hint. We've all been there, man. We've all been there. She goes out to look for tricks, and the girls from school judge her until Frank brings her an ice cream. And he lets her live in his treehouse and talks to her using those old tin can phones? I fucking love it. This is such a weird direction they went in, I have to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Frank wants her to marry his dad, saying his dad doesn't mind her job, by which he means tutoring, but she thinks he means the prostitution. And hence the wacky hijinks continue.
I never mix business with pleasure.
I'm not talking about pleasure. I'm talking about you marrying my dad.
Meanwhile, she finds out from the news that her pimp was murdered by his mob collector Walter, played by Malcolm McDowell of all people, for skimming money from him. Walter in turn also steals from his boss, Jerry the Pope. The pimp lied to him, saying that V stole the money, so now he's looking for her. She tries to get Frank's dad to fix the car faster so she can get the hell out of Dodge, but he's more interested in saving these wetlands than hers. So she decides to stick around for a while until the heat dies down. And Frank enlists her to help him with his sex education. Because he failed a biology test on the female reproductive system, he has to give an oral presentation to his class. Not that kind of oral presentation, you perverts. So he tricks his teacher into leaving the room, locks the door, and lets V in through the window so she can be his visual aid. The kids react enthusiastically to this, though the teacher manages to unlock the door before she can show any of the real goods, and she jumps out the window. And Frank became an instant legend at school that day. And apparently the school doesn't tell Frank's dad about what happened, since again there's no consequences for it. I really just want to know what weird world this writer was living in. Speaking of which, there's a bit I skipped over where Frank brings the friends over to his house to watch V take a bath to prove to them that she's there? They had a chance to end the weirdness, but they just couldn't resist bringing it back, could they? When Dad and V go out to dinner, the teacher sees them and is horrified. The girl who likes Frank sees them and tells her parents that she's his sister because V said that she was Frank's aunt. So when they start making out, it's a ha-ha funny moment.
This video is now banned in the United Kingdom.
They run into one of Frank's friends and his parents. The dad used her services once, which makes this awkward as hell, so she runs off all embarrassed. She takes Frank's dad to the treehouse to show him where she's been living and asks him to take his trousers off first before they talk, saying, "In my experience, men are better listeners with their pants off and I don't want you to run away." And he obliges because he really is that nice of a dude. She finally tells him that she's a hooker and that she likes him because he treats her like a person. But he's mad because she lied to him, which is understandable. He's also angry with Frank, who insists that she's 98% his perfect woman based on a test he took in Cosmopolitan, losing only 1 point for having the whole relationship be based on a lie.
Well, you only lose 1 point for that?
It says it's not very important.
Though relying on Cosmopolitan for relationship advice is perhaps the biggest joke in the movie. Her wearing his dead wife's clothes without his permission is also pretty fucked up, and the movie glosses over this.
And she fits into Mom's clothes.
I knew that dress looked familiar.
She storms off, calling Frank a liar for getting her into this mess. So Frank throws a necklace she gave him in the trash, into which he also throws the box with the photo of his dead mum? Jeez. Dad and V reconcile and then have sex in the treehouse. Yo, watch out for splinters. The friend's dad calls up V's agency to inquire about her, which tips Walter off to her location. After a near miss in which Frank covers for her, she decides she has to leave town. So she takes some money from his dad's wallet and leaves. But at the train station, she notices some lockets for sale which remind her of Frank, so she goes to his school dance to say goodbye. And Frank decides to reject the blonde girl and dance with a girl who actually likes him. Why he made this decision is not justified, he just does. The girls disappear after this, so that's our resolution. The friend's dad rather hypocritically calls V a slut, so Frank's dad hits him, which starts a fight. And while everyone's distracted, Walter comes in and leads V away at gunpoint to get his money back. But they realise that the money was in the car she stole this whole time. Seeing her in jeopardy, Frank pulls the fire alarm, while his friend traps Walter in a closet. The kids get V into a car and drive off. As in, the kids drive her, which is insanely dangerous. Could have just let her drive, but sure. At this point, who the fuck cares anymore? Let them crash and burn, at least that'd be funny. Walter has some bullshit pantomime dialogue with the assistant woman, who also exists.
You're not even worth the price of a bullet.
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am.
Seriously? Who thought this shit was funny?
You're not.
M2.
No.
M2.
Shut up. You're not.
The resulting car chase causes chaos throughout the town. The kids rip off the steering wheel and almost get hit by 2 trains. Problems that would have been circumvented by just letting her drive. The car catches fire and they escape before it explodes, taking the money with it.
Oh, God! They blew up my bloody money!
While Walter ruminates on how fucked he is, V takes the opportunity to escape. She goes to see Jerry the Pope, tells him how Walter was cheating him, and says that she wants out. He lets her go so she can stop being a prostitute now. We don't even get to see Walter get whacked, which is a shame. Call me biased, but a random British gangster tearing around suburbia USA deserves a more fitting end in my opinion.
A mad frigging tart!
Oh, and back at her apartment she finds the stolen money in Frank's backpack, which she kept hold of. How did it get there? Who knows? It's not explained because fuck you. And if you look through this movie carefully, there's no way this was possible based on what we were shown. So double fuck you. She uses the money to buy the wetlands the dad was trying to save, which stops him from being arrested for protesting. Do the authorities not wonder where she could have possibly gotten all that cash? Who cares? Fuck you again. And as a follow-up to a question that was asked several times earlier, she says,
There is a place you can touch a woman that'll drive her crazy.
Where?
Her heart.
oh, bullshit. But okay, I guess she doesn't want to tell him about the clitoris. That's for later, as are most things discussed in this movie. But you showed him your throbbing bazongas earlier. A few instructional words would surely be totally vanilla in comparison.
I have a hair.
Oh, just you wait, my lad. Just you wait. At least critics recognise this film for the unhinged piece of shit that it is. It's like someone saw Pretty Woman and was like, hey, you know what we should do? We should make that, but put kids in it and make it really fucking weird. If you rewrote the first 20 minutes of Milk Money, it could have been far more palatable, I think. It definitely peaks early in terms of awfulness and gets mostly boring from there. But while you were slaving away at your 9 to 5 trying to make an honest living for yourself, some absolute gooner sold their screenplay for this movie for $1.1 million. And that's in 3 decades ago money? What the actual fuck? Did the executive sign the check with one hand around his cock? The one with the girl that can't remember shit. Again. But worse this time. Moving on now to one of our more interesting entries, shall we just say. 1987's Overboard, directed by longtime filmmaker Gary Marshall. You could call this the movie. I'm not going to, but there's definitely a case to be made that it at least deserves that subtitle. Goldie Hawn plays a bitchy rich socialite named Joanna who gets amnesia after falling off her yacht. The other partner of this love story is Kurt Russell, who plays a carpenter, Dean, who gets treated badly by her, and so in revenge, he abducts her, gaslights her, and makes her his slave in all but name. You might think I'm exaggerating, but no, that really is what's going on in this movie if you take off your rose-tinted glasses. Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell were together at this point, and still are actually, which is nice to know, and at least they have chemistry on screen together. So I guess in a way this story is meant to be very cute and tongue-in-cheek. You're not supposed to take it seriously. But you know what? I didn't get that memo. My issue is that this is marketed as a romantic comedy, but I can't help but feel the extremely fucked up nature of what happens taints everything else. And even though the director said it was the funniest film he'd made, most of the humour fell flat for me, and not just because it was unintentionally horrifying. Overboard is pretty boring for the most part. Heh, should have called it Overboard. It just has no merits that make it stand out in a very crowded genre, except for the creepy plotline, but even that isn't unique. Anyhow, Joanna wants Dean to remodel her wardrobe, and she is an absolute cunt. I don't think they could have made her more privileged and condescending if they tried.
Andrew, when I tell you to pack staples, must I specify that you are to pack good caviar and not this $1.99 fish bait?
Despite, or perhaps because of this, he's into her, perving on her while she's changing swimsuits. And he insists on wearing this ridiculous wife beater that's completely open at the sides? Maybe his nipples had their own contract demanding a certain amount of screen time. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this shot was from a porno, and I defy you to disagree. She refuses to pay him because he didn't make it with Cedar, which she didn't tell him to do in the first place. Justifiably, he rips into her while the crew secretly claps, so she pushes him off the boat and sails away. These are the people who are going to end up together. Oh boy, I can't wait to see how this epic adventure unfolds. Sometime later, she realises she left her wedding ring on the deck, and falls into the water. No one can hear her complaining about her hair, so they just sail off. She gets rescued and brought to a hospital, but she's lost all her memory and doesn't know who she is. She hasn't forgotten how to be a bitch, though. Her husband shows up, and perhaps understandably, he refuses to identify her and then leaves.
While there are no efforts being made for anyone to try to locate someone...
Is that her?
No, I never saw her before in my life.
Not gonna lie, this was the first and loudest time I laughed. Meanwhile, Dean's children are out of control since his wife died 3 years ago. Apparently, they're on an arson streak, so their school's principal threatens to get social services involved. He recognises Joanna on TV and concocts a brilliant plan to both get revenge and deal with his home problems like a responsible adult, delegating everything to a helpless slave. So he goes to the psychiatric ward and claims to be her husband, gaslighting her and the ward staff, and then sexually assaulting her when she says she doesn't remember him, which the staff think is hilarious.
But I truly, from the depths of my soul, do not remember you. Now, don't you think there'd be some spark of recognition?
We don't know.
Maybe you'll spark to this.
I don't know. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
They go along with this because, he's a nice guy, he's a good-looking guy, and because they're also sick of her shit. So when he identifies a birthmark she has, which he saw when he was perving on her earlier, they let her go home with him. And so the prison saga begins.
No, this is wrong.
He takes her to his absolute shithole of a house and introduces her to his troublesome kids, who are also in on the scheme. The shock of all this makes her faint. He has her wear his dead wife's clothes, which you can't convince me isn't some morbid shit. And he ropes her into doing all the housework, cooking, cleaning, and looking after the kids. The comprehensive trad wife experience.
Word around the office is you've got a fat cock.
While Dean is a lazy bum, refusing to help out or do anything about his sons reading a dirty magazine in front of their, quotation marks, mum. His mate, who looks like Meat Canyon's sex pest cousin, encourages him to take advantage of her, if you know what I mean. Giggity giggity, giggity goo. But he doesn't actually want to have sex with her, that's a line he won't cross, and I'm guessing the filmmakers didn't want to cross it either. At least, not yet. He even douses himself in whiskey and makes an awkward pass at her to put her off sex entirely so that the question doesn't come up again. And he also makes her sleep on the couch, which is a bit mean. He just wants to keep her there for a month until she pays off the debt she owes him. A debt that she doesn't even remember at this point, bear in mind. The essence of the comedy is that because she's a vapid, obnoxious bint, seeing her reduced to this pitiful state of struggle is funny. And to be honest, it might be in different circumstances. Like, she's being used and punished, but she doesn't even know what for. It's like another plotline from Black Mirror.
Baby, we like you.
And if you're thinking, why doesn't she just leave? Well, where the fuck's she supposed to go? She's got no IDs or documentation, and doesn't know anybody else or anything about herself. She's totally dependent on this guy who has essentially kidnapped her. It's virtually indentured servitude.
I got a wonderful slave, and you are a genius.
Her husband is having an absolutely great time, by the way. He's living it up large with gorgeous young women who won't say no to him because of the implication. He's actually kind of entertaining because of how batshit crazy he is.
I was whacking the donkey with painted ladies. They loved me.
Well, that is certainly a line. Joanna finally has a brainwave and looks for memorabilia of the two of them, which of course doesn't exist. So he has his mate do some primitive photo manipulation to fake a bunch of pictures of them together. Emphasis on primitive. She does question why she always looks so weird in them, but this man practically wrote the book on gaslighting. The real star of the show is still his nipples though. Why does he keep pulling the shirt down? Is that supposed to be sexy? Ladies, help me out here. But witnessing the glorious nips triggers a memory of the yacht closet, which he also manages to shrug off. Despite this family continuing to be incredibly dysfunctional, doing things like gluing her hands to dinner plates and eating a chocolate cream pie with their hands like fucking animals, she eventually starts having fun and forgets how much she hates her new life. Instead, she adapts to it, becoming a mother figure for the boys, defending them from the principal and even teaching the youngest how to read. Not that this stops him from continuing to lie to her and treat her badly.
Normally, you look real pretty. You just don't now.
Somewhere along the way, she learns that Dean has been working a second job to get by, which makes him more sympathetic in her eyes. Oh, those were the dark, grim days, weren't they? No one has to work multiple jobs anymore just to get by, do they? So she helps him secure the money he needs to build his dream golf course. He's finally ready to tell her the truth, but she thinks he's talking about him working a second job. So he looks at his sons, sees how happy they are, realises how sweet the deal is, and chickens out. Oh, when she asks him how old she is, he doesn't know, so he lies and says that she's 29. And since he's already told her that they've been married for 13 years, you do the maths. Even the fake scenario he made up is kinda messed up. They kiss and then have sex. Considering the deception and false pretenses involved here, I hope I don't have to explain to you why this cream pie isn't kosher. The boys also act kinda disgusting towards her.
She might have no tits, but she has a nice ass.
Fucking hell, why would you say that about the woman who thinks she's your mother while she's in earshot? And neither she nor Dean does anything about it. It's okay though, one day he could even grow up to be president. She finds her bikini in his car, doesn't recognise it, and assumes that he's cheating on her. He then tries to tell her that she's not his wife, but she doesn't believe him. And the boys refuse to back him up because they want to keep her around. And the pervy friend also gives a bullshit story and says Dean was trying to cover for him. So now they're forcing him to stay with her and keep this fucked arrangement going. But hey, it wouldn't be a romantic comedy without side characters doing weird shit. Eventually, the real husband shows up to the house, which triggers Joanna to get all her memories back, which of course makes her really, really pissed. As she rejects them and goes back to her former life, the kids bang on the car windows and the music swells and the piano really tries to get you to feel sad about this outcome, which I just can't. I mean, he even lied to her about what her name was. They don't press charges for whatever reason, and back on her yacht, she sails off into the sunset, which is where the movie should have ended. But naturally, it doesn't. The rest of this film could have been steered in a more redeemable direction, but the choice was made not to do that. While Dean makes himself the ultimate divorced dad meal and laments that they won't get her back because she hates him now, and not because he committed multiple crimes, Joanna acts nice for a change, which horrifies her husband and her final boss Karen of a mother. See kids, kidnapping and brainwashing does work! After apologising to her butler and the crew, she turns the yacht around to go back to Dean. Meanwhile, Dean gets his mates in the Coast Guard to drive their boat up to her husband's yacht. Taxpayer dollars hard at work once again. Joanna's husband admits that he left her at the psych ward, which is a shitty thing to do, don't get me wrong, but she wants to go back to the guy who kidnapped and kept her as a house pet? So, where is her moral compass exactly? Tell me this isn't Stockholm Syndrome? The Coast Guard get an actual mission and turn their boat around, so Dean jumps in the ocean and Joanna does likewise. Because this film wasn't insane enough already, the husband tries to shoot her with a bow, but the butler takes care of him. She tells Dean that the money and the yacht are all hers, but if that was the case, why was she even married to this obnoxious guy in the first place? The tax benefits can't have been that great.
What could I possibly give you ever that you don't already have?
A little girl.
Considering the context of all this, it just feels wrong, man. And they literally sail into the sunset. You can't make this up. In addition to being a romance, Overboard is a story of reform, about going from cruel to kind. But in terms of messaging, it's wrapped up in so much problematic shit that it's basically worthless. The moral of the movie, if there even is one, is that all of this is worth it because it made her life better. Even though he lied and did all this fucked up stuff to her and put her through all that, he inadvertently made her a better person. So it's okay? It's kinda like the taming of the shrew, but the amnesia makes it even worse. Like, maybe I'm just a killjoy, but taking advantage of an amnesiac, or someone who's not in control of their faculties, is just fucked up, however you slice it. If Kurt Russell was replaced with an ugly dude, you cannot tell me this wouldn't be considered a horror movie rather than a romance. Shockingly, I guess I must be in the minority on this one again, because this movie also had a bunch of remakes. And no, I'm not going to torture myself with them. I refuse. But believe it or not, Overboard isn't even the worst film in this video. Oh no, we've saved the best till last. The one with the childlike trauma victim. Yes, really. Now, you're probably thinking, what could be worse than indecent exposure to minors, an unbreakable nightmarish cycle of amnesia, and almost rape? Almost child abuse. Okay, no, I'm being hyperbolic here. This is obviously not that. So this one doesn't quite belong in Ex-Prince Andrew's Criterion collection. But it's not a million miles off? It's somewhat adjacent? Maybe he would rent it? 2014's Barefoot. I can almost guarantee you've never heard of this one, and neither had I, because no one fucking saw it. The second biggest oof of this movie is its box office numbers, but the first is its story. Our protagonist is Jay, a selfish womanizer whose parents hate him because he's such a loser. He has a gambling problem, the result of which is him owing $37,000 to a loan shark. Discount Robert De Niro gives him an ultimatum to pay the money or get his head smashed in, having a beating delivered for emphasis. Strangely, Jay's the one that ends up getting arrested for this. He's out on parole for multiple offences and working as a janitor in a psychiatric hospital. And he's way too cocky considering the state of his life. He accepts an invitation to his brother's wedding, hoping to scam the money he needs from his wealthy parents. He lies to them because he doesn't want them to know how much of a screw-up he is, and makes up a girlfriend he doesn't have, but his parents insist on him bringing her along. To really solidify his incompetence, he fails in an attempt to chat up a nurse and then gives alcohol and porn mags to some of the patients, which gets him in trouble with the psychiatrist Dr. Bertelman.
From this point forward, you will have no contact with these patients except to mop the floor beneath their feet. Are we clear?
J.K. Simmons must have needed multiple surgeries after doing his best to carry this movie on his very talented shoulders. I love this man. Whatever he's in, he is great. But even he can't save this one. Doctor reminds Jay that he can't afford to lose his job because he'd be violating his probation and go back to prison. So yeah, this is the male half of our romantic coupling. Believe it or not though, it goes downhill from here. Meanwhile, a new patient, Daisy, is brought in. Although she is an adult, she was raised in complete isolation by her abusive mother, and so is very naive and ignorant and acts like a child. The mother is dead, and she has schizophrenia, which is why she's in the hospital. And yes, this is our love interest. I think you can guess where this one is going. Occasionally, her naivety is kind of funny, and it's the source of the majority of the attempted comedy in this film.
Are we in trouble?
No, I'm in trouble. The guy's gonna throw my sorry ass in jail.
Well, maybe we can ask him not to.
What?
But considering it's in the context of a romance, it's not cute. It's just weird as fuck. Case in point, because she wasn't vulnerable enough already, a patient pretends to be a doctor in order to have his way with her, so Jay knocks him out. But because he wasn't supposed to get involved with patients, he rushes out. Daisy follows him out because she doesn't like it in there. He doesn't want to deal with her, but he also doesn't want to lose his job, so he makes several leaps of logic to justify not immediately returning her to the hospital. He gives her money for a cab and tells her to go wherever she wants, demonstrating that he has no idea how to handle mental patients. But she stands there looking like a sad lost puppy, so he takes her to a strip club he got banned from at the start of the film? Are you fucking kidding me?
This fat man offered me $100 for a hand job? I've never had a job.
He tries to convince a stripper to go to the wedding with him, but none of them want to do it because he's such a loser. Daisy starts innocently dancing on the platform, but freaks out when the bouncer tries to pull her down and kicks them out. So Jay decides, you know what? Fuck it. You're coming to the wedding with me. Just pretend to be a nurse and my girlfriend. And because she has the mind of a child, she goes along with it. Because again, right now, she's basically a helpless child, jumping at the sight of her own shadow. Taking advantage of someone with this level of mental and emotional maturity is deeply unethical, however you slice it. This makes the fact that he has her wear stripper clothing somewhat more disturbing. It's worth mentioning at this point that she doesn't like wearing shoes, and usually goes barefoot, hence the movie's title. And even that's a bit messed up. Like it's supposed to be quirky and a sign of her innocence or whatever, but really it just highlights how stunted her emotional growth is. On the upside, if you're into feet, you'll have a great time with this one, and you'll probably be the only ones that will. And you'll be eating good because her feet always stay remarkably clean regardless of circumstances. The silver lining at this point is that he's not actually trying to have sex with her. Yet. The meeting with his family is awkward as hell, but they mostly find her endearing. Jay tries to get his father to give him money to invest, although really it's to pay off his debts, and that doesn't go over well. But Daisy stands up for him. Daisy further demonstrates her emotional trauma by cleaning the bathroom, because that's how her mother taught her to earn love. Jay says that that's bollocks, and then Daisy admits that she's the one who killed her mother. That would make a pretty good reaction gif. He still doesn't feel guilty about using her though. Jay's mother sees Daisy in stripper's clothes, so she gives her a new dress and a makeover. She has her coming down the stairs moment and almost falls over because she's wearing high heels. Again, I feel like this just emphasises how not mature she is. Like when they do a slow dance, she's obviously uncomfortable and having complicated feelings that she's having to process for the first time. So when the dad tries to get her to tell him what Jay is really up to, she has a panic attack in the middle of the dance floor. Jay's parents are obviously very suspicious at this point, so he just tells them the truth. Then his dad gets angry because the mum wants Daisy to keep the necklace she gave her. Knowing that the cops will now be looking for them, instead of just returning her to the hospital, he steals his dad's vintage RV, drives with her across the country, dumps her at a bus station with some money, and leaves her there to try selling the RV. And again, because she's basically a child, she just sits there waiting for him to come back until she becomes distraught. Failing to sell the RV, Jay calls Doctor to tell him what happened, and about the guy that tried to Weinstein Daisy, but Doctor thinks he's bullshitting and reminds him that Daisy has serious psychiatric problems, in case anyone had forgotten this. Jay tells him where she is and hangs up, but after seeing her shoes in the RV, he gets remorseful and comes back to pick her up. They get recognised at a store and a chase ensues, and he somehow manages to escape from the cops in the RV. You know what? I've seen weirder stuff on bodycam, so I'll allow it. So now they're just on the run, which is stupid because they're going to get caught eventually and he's going to prison. And since she's a mental patient, he's probably going to get charged with kidnapping as well, and he's even made her complicit in his crimes.
What did you do?
I threw his keys away.
Why?
Because if you go to jail, we can't be together.
You are hardcore.
No, she's disturbed. On this fucked up road trip of his, they develop a bond, enjoying each other's company. But she doesn't get less immature. If anything, she indulges in all manner of childish activities, which should emphasise to a normal person in this situation that she needs some psychological help.
You've been thinking about having sex with me, haven't you? It's okay.
No, I don't really think it is. I mean, please tell me you're not having romantic or sexual feelings for a girl who describes going to the toilet as big potty.
I'm so hungry.
I know, me too.
And I have to go big potty.
I don't know, basic human emotions are not my strong suit.
Yeah, no shit, dude.
What was I supposed to do with her?
Contact a mental health professional?
It didn't occur to me.
Seems like having coherent thoughts isn't your strong suit either. Jay tells Doctor that he's going to bring her back to the hospital, the first sensible decision he's made. But Daisy overhears him and gets upset.
Daisy, stop! You're driving like a crazy person!
I'm not a crazy person!
I mean... Daisy then admits that it was her mother that heard voices, not her, which is why she was abusive, and that she didn't help her mother when she was dying. But Jay insists that she's not responsible for that and she's not a murderer. He admits that he doesn't want to take her back anymore. But the cops show up, take his ass to jail, and she gets sent back to the hospital anyway. Jay's mother guilt-trips his dad into posting his bail, but when he gets out, he discovers that the loan shark's goons have ransacked his apartment and are waiting for him outside. He tries to get back in the hospital to see Daisy, but Doctor tells him in no uncertain terms to fuck right off. And can you blame him? The fact that she's so upset about being separated from him, given her current mental faculties, just goes to show how bad of an idea this was.
For my next trick!
I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
So Jay fakes a suicide attempt to get put into the hospital, but Doctor is having none of it and puts him in a locked ward. Although Jay does manage to tell him what Daisy said about her mother hearing voices. That night, the goon sneaks into the ward to strangle Jay. He is then beaten unconscious by Jay's patient friend. You remember, the one he gave porn to like an hour and 10 minutes ago? Jay's dad later sends him money to clear his debts, thus presumably ending that plotline. Must be one forgiving loan shark. Doctor apologises to Jay because he was right about the handsy patient and Daisy's mother. so if Daisy gets better, she can go to a group home. But that's not good enough for Jay, experienced mental health professional. Eventually, she gets released from the hospital, and they're together again. The end. I hate that the movie ends this way. Of course, we knew it was going to, but it still made me feel a bit sick. This one I think veers into the realm of the writer's barely disguised fetish. Daisy's trauma and isolation have kept her in a childlike state. She can't be said to have full agency, at least not until she's had some help and therapy anyway, which she doesn't get initially because he didn't just take her back to the hospital. There's no real chemistry between them. There's just infatuation and codependency on her part, and him finding her young and hot and innocent and dependent on him. What kind of relationship could you possibly have with someone who acts like a mentally handicapped Disney princess? There's no way this is healthy. It's kind of gross, actually. The film romanticizes the infantilization of women. If you wanted to call it sexist, I wouldn't blame you. And if any movie in this list deserves to be called creepy, it's this one. Without the romance angle, and with more emphasis on helping her grow up and heal, I think this premise could have worked in a better movie. But as it is, it feels like a Dar-Man skit that goes on way too long. I wanted to stab the writer. Not fatally, of course, just hard enough to be annoying. I feel like that's a justified reaction. The not-so-epic conclusion. So, what did we learn from this epic journey? I for one feel like I took the ring all the way to Mount Doom. And then fell in. Realistically, I think most people view these films as just harmless fun and don't take them seriously at all. Like, Overboard is pretty fucked up if you think about it, but a lot of people love that movie and consider it a classic. Hell, even my mum does. So I'm not saying you're a bad person for enjoying these movies. Unless you are a bad person, in which case go fuck yourself. But I do think there's a conversation that's worth having about these very common but questionable tropes in romance fiction. Like infidelity, deceit, immaturity, incapability, or toxicity, and about how we should evaluate these stories from a moral point of view. And you do have to wonder at the extent to which the presence of enough of these kind of stories can affect certain people's attitudes and expectations when it comes to romance. I certainly wouldn't want anyone to put up with any kind of nonsense or abuse in a relationship just because it happened to work out in a romance film. I don't think this kind of creepy romance story is ever going to go away entirely, because you're always going to find people that find them either acceptable or at least entertaining. And perhaps human existence is ultimately cyclical, and we are doomed to never learn from our mistakes and to repeat them ad nauseum until we finally embrace oblivion. Thus, there are plenty more of these movies, so if you want me to do another video like this covering more of them, hammer away at those keyboards and let me know down in the comments. Until then, I am going to go cry in a corner. Hey folks, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for bearing with me, I know it was a long wait since the last video. The next one will not take this long, I promise. Big thanks to my patrons and channel members, and to this video's sponsor. Check them out, all my links are down below. And I'll see you in the next one.